remember it was Jasmine Fisher who suggested the breakup back then, right? While his girlfriend was in the restroom, the classmates began to gossip. Jasmine Fisher is me. Victor Wilson sat across, with a faint smile on his lips, but extremely cold eyes. Ding! Wisnovel reminds you to click the subscribe button in the bottom right corner to read the complete novel. This was our first meeting after the breakup 6 years ago. Everything was a bit unexpected. I only came here because the class monitor said Victor Wilson wouldn't come. I didn't expect to meet him here. Now Victor Wilson, successful and outstanding young entrepreneur in the city, a returnee talent. He was in a tailored suit, handsome and remarkable. The watch on his wrist alone was invaluable. Everyone admired and respected him. On the other hand, I was no longer as great as before. It was indeed her who suggested the breakup first. Victor Wilson calmly answered everyone's doubts. Everyone had their own speculations. It was nothing more than me being materialistic, unable to endure hardship, choosing the wrong person, and losing everything. Jasmine Fisher, I heard that the person you were with later went to prison, right? You even took on his debts. Are you here at the reunion to ask for money? Amidst the ridicule from everyone, Victor's calm and profound eyes remained fixed on me, without saying a word. I awkwardly smiled and didn't answer. The door was pushed open, and Victor's girlfriend walked back in, noticing the strange atmosphere, and asked with a smile, "What happened while I was away?" Victor Wilson, unlike his previous silence, gently held her hand. "Nothing, just catching up." She calmly sat down, her gaze fixed on me, smiling and raising the corner of her mouth. "Victor mentioned you to me. If you hadn't let go back then, you would be the wife of the CEO of Wilson Group now." Many people's eyes revealed a gloating look. Back then, the Fisher family was flourishing, and as the daughter of the Fisher family, wherever I went, I was the center of attention. This envy wouldn't fade with time. Instead, it would become their reason to kick me when I was down many years later. Victor broke the awkwardness with a cold and irrefutable tone. "It's all in the past." Everyone fell silent, understanding that he didn't want to continue this topic, and started talking about other things. His girlfriend toasted to me. "Thank you for letting go. You must come to our wedding." I quietly covered the scar on my wrist and said blankly, "Congratulations. Why don't you explain it to him?" On the phone, my best friend Ariel was indignant for me. The class reunion ended early, and I stood in the cold wind wrapped in a coat, exhaling hot air. "He has a girlfriend now." There was a pause on the other end of the phone. "A girlfriend?" Ariel was incredulous. "Yeah, classmates left in pairs, the light of the street lamps reflected on the snow, like shattered glass. It's a pity that you finally saw him after waiting for so long." "Ariel, no one will wait for you forever." Some words, if not said at the time, would be pointless to say later, except to make things worse. The cold wind made my eyes cold and sore. I blinked my sour eyes. I give up. Even though I have struggled for so many years, crawled out of the quagmire, and wanted to reunite with him in the most decent way, it's too late. "Okay, then come back and talk about it." The temperature had dropped below zero before the new year. It was hard to find a taxi, and after standing for a while, my hands froze. The phone showed that I was in line waiting for a taxi. Behind me, there came the sound of high heels, accompanied by a woman's gentle voice. "Victor, the snow is so beautiful. It's cold outside. Go to the car first. I'll be there in a moment." Victor Wilson's voice was very distinctive. "Then hurry up." As the woman passed by me, she gave me a meaningful look. Then she walked to a nearby place, opened the car door, and the action just happened to expose the bracelet hanging on her wrist, which was particularly eye-catching. That was the heirloom of the Wilson family. It used to be worn on my hand, but when we broke up, I asked someone to return it to Victor Wilson. So she was not just a girlfriend, but also a fiancée. The crowd had all gone, leaving only me and him. The taxi I called hadn't arrived yet. Victor Wilson stood behind me in silence. The two of us were silent like this, and there were two overlapping shadows under the street lamp. My mind wandered back to the night of the breakup, when Victor had a car accident on his way to see me. His best friend called, with an unfriendly tone. "Victor is in the hospital. Is he in danger? Yuri not coming if he was not in danger? Please take good care of him. Jasmine, he got the opportunity to go abroad. He will have a bright future sooner or later. Why can't you wait a little longer? Are you so short of money? What he has done for you, you won't be able to repay in your lifetime. Did you forget it all?" His best friend almost broke down on the phone, almost calling me heartless. Then the phone was suddenly snatched away and hung up. It could be said that I abandoned him. It's normal for him to hate me. "How much money do you owe?" Victor pulled me out of the memories with a cold tone. "It's none of your business." I took a breath of cold air, and the sore throat that had been stimulated by alcohol just now suddenly coughed. The cold air cut through my trachea, causing intense pain. I bent over, leaning against the street lamp post. The alcohol I had just drunk began to churn in my stomach, making me tear up. Victor stood beside me, looking at me with cold eyes. A taxi slowly stopped in front of me, and the driver leaned out from inside. "Are you going to Wander Manor?" "Yes." I propped up my knees, stood up, took a deep breath, and went to open the car door. But suddenly my arm was grabbed and pulled over. I was caught off guard and stumbled into Victor's arms. He asked, "What are you going there for?" Wander Manor is in the wealthy district, and people are not easily allowed in. I tried to push Victor's hand away hastily, but he grabbed my wrist from the other side. His scorching body temperature pressed against my skin, reaching into my chest. I struggled a couple of times, but couldn't break free. I looked up at Victor's dark and inscrutable face. What does Mr. Wilson want to say? He pursed his lips, his black eyes deep and calm, with no visible emotions. The cold wind howled, tousling my hair. I forced a smile and said what he was thinking. Like everyone else, you think the money I earn is dirty, right? $50,000 a month, is that enough? Victor interrupted my words with a cold face. What do you mean? A layer of sneer finally appeared in his eyes. Aren't you short of money? 50,000 or 100,000 to support you. If you think it's not enough, you can tell me an amount. Suddenly, I raised my hand and the loud slap echoed through the night. There was a clear five-finger mark on Victor Wilson's face. In the distance, a woman's cry rang out, and she opened the car door and rushed out. Go on with your own life and stay out of other people's business. I left these words behind and left in the car. Did you hit him? Ariel poured a cup of hot water for me. Yeah, he wanted to keep me as his mistress. I curled up on the sofa, enduring waves of stomach pain, slowly sipping the water. After a while, I suddenly ran to the toilet and threw up. Ariel patted my back. You have a bad stomach and you still drank alcohol. I took a few breaths, wiped away the water stains from my lips after rinsing, and felt the burning sensation in my esophagus. UV liked him for so many years. Is it worth it? I looked up at the mirror, staring at my wet eyelashes, black hair sticking to my forehead, my face somewhat pale. Ariel's complaints came from a distance, and I couldn't hear them clearly. If you hadn't broken up with him, he wouldn't be so successful today. I thought of Victor's fiancée again. Compared to me, she had a kind of brilliance and charm. I vaguely remembered, many years ago, I was like that too. But later on, I fell too hard, and when I crawled out of the ditch, everything had changed. After Ariel finished work at Wander Manor, we walked hand in hand back to our rental house. I suddenly received a call from Victor's friend. Jasmine, if you're in need, I can arrange a job for you. I didn't say anything, waiting to hear what he had to say next. They are getting married next month. Heidi Gill is a nice person, and her family background is not bad. I won't bother him anymore. You can rest assured. He fell silent for a moment, trying to explain in vain. We just want Victor to live a better life. Okay. All of our old friends, without exception, stood on Victor's side. After hanging up the phone, Ariel's eyes were red. They don't understand anything. It's okay. Since I had to stay here for a while, I found a job not far from home. During the interview, the HR manager asked me suspiciously, "Do you have depression?" It's in the past. I'm fine now, and I have a doctor's certificate. Several companies had rejected me before during background checks because of this reason. This company was relatively small, and that same evening, I received the notice of employment. I thought that the class reunion would be the last time I would see Victor Wilson, but 3 days later, Victor came to our company and became my boss, and my workstation was moved to the entrance of Victor's office. I refused to move my workstation to your office door. Okay. Victor didn't even look up, coldly saying, "Then hand in your resignation to the HR department." I chuckled. Are you going to fire me just because I don't agree to change seats? He paused with his pen, finally deigning to look up and speak to me. I'm just giving you a choice. Do you think I have any intention towards you? I choked up, thinking about how Ariel had argued with someone last night over a small amount of rent, and forced a smile. Mr. Wilson, I'm not afraid, as you are a man of integrity. Victor nodded slightly. Thank you. When you leave, please close the door. Also, make sure your chair faces away from me. I don't want to see your face. For the remaining days, we hardly had any interaction. 1 week later, the company had a team-building event. As a newcomer, I was forced to drink a lot of alcohol. Jasmine, if you don't drink, I'll have to deduct your salary. Don't worry, if you get drunk, we'll take you back. Weary all women, what's there to be afraid of? The manager smiled and persuaded me to drink. Amidst everyone's cheering, I downed the last glass of the night and passed out on the table. The next day, I woke up on a large bed. The bright sunlight made it hard to open my eyes. I sat up, the duvet slipping off, revealing the soft robe wrapped around me. I paused for a moment, then got up and walked out. In the spacious living room, Victor was sitting with his legs crossed, reading the morning paper, also wearing a hotel robe. Seeing me come out, he lifted his eyelids slightly and glanced at me indifferently. Awake? Breakfast is on the table. After you finish, you can go back to sleep for a while. A chill ran down my spine, and my face turned pale. Did we? Victor casually tossed the newspaper on the coffee table, slightly loosened his collar, revealing ambiguous kiss marks. Unfortunately, you were the one who took the initiative last night. I felt like I had been struck by lightning, with no memory of last night at all. That's impossible. Victor placed a contract in front of me, with my fingerprint on it. The general content was that I would be his mistress, and he would pay me a monthly salary of $100 $400,000. It's impossible that I pressed my fingerprint on this, is it? Victor chuckled lightly. Are you sure? Faced with his serious and candid gaze, I opened my mouth but couldn't say a word. Ignoring my discomfort, he took out a recorder. Last night, accidentally, I recorded your confession. Miss Fisher, do you want to hear your despicable thoughts? I shuddered all over, feeling like I was in an ice house. A huge sense of shame overwhelmed me. Even hiding such thoughts made me feel despicable, and now that they had been exposed and turned into evidence, I felt like I had committed a crime. Victor's eyebrows and eyes were pressed down low, making it hard to see the emotions in his eyes. Lusting after a man who has a fiancé. Tisk, Jasmine, how about I let them listen to this recording? I clenched my fists tightly, my fingernails digging into the palms of my hands. Are you trying to retaliate against me? Yes, he answered nonchalantly. You didn't want to let me off easy in the first place, so why should I let you off easy? Two choices. Either fulfill the contract, or I'll make the recording public. The clock in the corner ticked, accompanying the sound of my heartbeat, pounding in my ears. My lips were dry, and I raised my head numbly. Then let's make it public. Under his cold gaze, I said numbly, Victor, I won't be the third party. Victor stared at me seriously and smiled. Jasmine, who do you think you are? Do you think you still have the right to choose? I found my clothes in a mess in the bathroom. While Victor's clothes were neatly hung on the door rack, everything was in perfect order. The scene in front of me hurt my eyes. I sighed and quietly changed my clothes before leaving the hotel. Ariel called, sounding tense. Jasmine, they want $500,000. The sky was gloomy, and the sun was nowhere to be seen. Ariel hadn't saved much money for my treatment, and my savings were meager. They said if we don't pay, they will expose your situation, and they won't tell you where your mother's belongings and ashes are. I'll try to advance a part of my salary and borrow some money. I should be able to raise the money next month. Okay. After hesitating for a while, I dialed a number. It took a while for the call to be answered. Miss Fisher, what's the matter? I exhaled and said, Dr. Hart, sorry to bother you. I need. Nolan Hart seemed busy on the other end. After a few transfers, he finally reached a quiet place and patiently asked, Are you in trouble? I took a deep breath. Can you lend me $400,000? This was the first time I had asked someone for money, and I felt like I was on fire after saying it. There was suddenly a commotion on the other end. Dr. Hart, emergency surgery. I see. I didn't have much hope, and I prepared myself for him to hang up. At the last moment, Nolan Hart said briefly, Send me the card number, and I'll transfer the money to you today. After that, the call ended. The sky was still gloomy, but the cold, busy tone suddenly felt warmer.